Hello, everybody. How are you? It's Jason and
Callie.
we're here for another great, informative weekly presentation.
Right.
What we need a really cool catchphrase for our weekend or weekly. Yeah. Anyway, so we've got some great stuff. Last week I was talking to you about fasting, intermittent fasting. I'm going to go into more depth in the fasting now. See the fasting as an encyclopedia. It has many aspects to it. It reaches a lot of different parts of our lives with a ton of benefits. There are different ways to do it. So even though I may sound like I'm talking about intermittent fasting a lot, it's not the same information, and I got to break it up because there's just so much, and you'd fall asleep and sleep through all of the information I'd give you if I give it to you all at one time. So we're going to give it to you in, how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time. That's how we're going to give it to you.
It's more than just intermittent fasting, I think. The information that Jason's going to talk about, I think it's a lot to do with a lot of different topics on how to lose fat, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's
how to build muscle, how to save muscle, how to have more energy.
So there's a lot of different things that go into intermittent fasting that coincide with it. So I guess let's get started.
All right, let's get started. So every week we come to you in our 3 Believe Wellness program, and we like to make sure that we're covering different information, things that will help you make you healthier, things that will make you feel better, things that will make you feel, look, and act younger. So for those of you that will have questions for this presentation, just go to the side of the video presentation and type in the chat column your question. Would be more than happy to answer them during the program. And if you can hear us, please let us know so we know that technology is working in our favor. So a little bit of background of who I am. I'm a food scientist that specializes in chronic disease and metabolic syndrome. Now, that only sounds like two things, but it is over 85% of all the issues and medical conditions that happen that make us sick, that allow us to be healthy. It is comprised in and contained in chronic disease and metabolic syndrome. Think of a disease. Think of an issue that you have, and it is related directly to chronic disease or metabolic syndrome. And that's why I picked it. So for the last 10 years, I've been working with doctors and clinics all across the country, actually some overseas as well, in formulating special protocols and formulas and meals and supplements to help doctors treat their patients that have diabetes and obesity and heart disease. Those are great examples of chronic disease. And they like to do it without medication or surgery. And that seems to be the trend. And I like that trend, the way things are going. People ask why we go to doctors. The reason why is because the CDC, the health department of our country, says that 79% of the people in the United States are overweight. 37% have high cholesterol. 40% have high blood pressure. 15% are diabetic. And that's only those that have been diagnosed. There's more walking around that have not been told by their doctor that they're diabetic. And sadly, 25 to 32% of people have fatty liver disease. That's where all metabolic syndrome issues start. And it's a big deal. So we started there. If you think about your family and friends and neighbors, sadly, 80% of those people have at least one of the symptoms that are on the screen: high blood pressure or overweight, or have pre or type 2 diabetes. What's the secret to all this? What is our magic message for everybody? It's really simple. It's just eating your right ratios of FPC, eating the exact or the correct ratios of your fat, your proteins, and your carbohydrates. You don't have to take necessarily a special berry from the indigenous tribe of South America or Africa or some island in the Pacific. It is simply balancing out your fats, your proteins, and your carbohydrates. And if you don't, then you get those chronic issues. That's what science tells us, and that's what I'm all about, is telling you the science. So when you think about food, we want you to think about, rather than if the food is healthy or unhealthy, think about, is it accomplishing your goals? Is it making you healthy, or is it pushing you closer to, well, shortening your life? For an example of balancing your FPC, it's very simple. Just rearrange where you're getting your calories from. For example, most people in the United States get 51% of their calories from carbohydrates. That's way too high. That doesn't mean that carbs are bad. It just means that it's too much of a good thing. We need to drop that down into a lower percentage of our total caloric intake. For example, like 12 or 22% of our calories should come from carbohydrates, and the rest from our proteins and our fats. Balancing out this FPC, studies tell us more and more, almost every single day, that it's more important than exercise. And we exercise every day. It's very important for mobility and body strength and flexibility and moving that lymph system. It's very, very important, but it's more important than exercise. It's more important than supplements, and we take them every single day. I believe in supplements and the power of the supplements. You've seen how much supplements and botanicals we put into the CMR shake to give you the nourishment and the vitamins and minerals and all the attached biochemistry that your body needs. We put that in every shake. But what's more important than the supplements? Balancing your fats, your proteins, and your carbohydrates. If you didn't have to do anything else, you didn't have the time or the money to do any of the supplements or any of the exercise, balance out your FPCs and your life will be much, much better. Change your FPC and you'll literally change your life. It happened to me 11 years ago. I was 280 pounds overweight. I had over 10 chronic issues like high blood pressure and high cholesterol. I was pre-diabetic. And after 12 weeks, only 12 weeks of following an FPC regimen, balancing out my fats and my proteins and my carbs, I lost almost 80 pounds. I did it without exercise, and I look and feel better than I ever have. So today we're going to talk about intermittent fasting, but I want to talk about, do you eat before or do you eat after exercise? So looks like the letter was a little bit too big on exercise. Again, technology threw me a curve. So the question is, there's a lot of people that says, well, I need to eat before I exercise because I want to have enough energy to do my workout so that I can lose weight. Okay, all right, I see the logic there. You got to have gas in the tank, right, to drive up the hill to get to your destination of fat loss. And then there's other people that say, you know, I'm not really concerned about fat loss. I just want to build muscle mass. Well, I need to have energy, so I'm lifting harder, I'm lifting heavier, and where's that energy going to come from if I don't eat something before? And it's really popular right now to have these pre-workout or these pre-energy drinks. Very, very, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's just exploding all the time. So all those people can't be wrong, right? I mean, there's scientists and experts that are formulating these drinks. They all can't just be witch doctors, right? They have to be trained professionals. So it has to be a good thing for us. So the question is, do we eat before or after our exercise? Well, let's turn to some science. In this example, I'm going to assume that we want to burn some fat. We want to be the most efficient way we can at burning fat. And so some of the messages is that here's an example of what we should eat before our workout. Well, we get a piece of fruit, get some nice healthy fructose, some natural glucose, some sugars in our system, or maybe we can go to some whole grains or some peanut butter, or maybe some red beets. I hear that's great for boosting my nitrous oxide in my body, and that sounds like a good energy thing. Maybe I should have some caffeine before. What are the things that we should have before our workout? Well, let's talk about how we actually burn fat. So here's a diagram of a fat cell. Now, see that kind of colorful, looks like a dashboard on a new age vehicle. Every one of our fat cells has this little computer system. That's the nucleus of the fat cell. It tells the fat cell what to do when it's given the commands of hormones and chemicals. And really, you and I, except for certain situations, we, after the age of our adolescence, don't gain any more fat cells. We have the same number of fat cells that we did when we were born with. It's just that the difference is those fat cells blow up and they shrink down. They get full of fat, and then the fat gets pulled out of it and used as energy, and those fat cells shrink, kind of like a balloon at a party. The balloons don't disappear. They just fill up with air and they deplete with air, just like our fat cells. All right. So we're going to talk about, I want you to understand, because a lot of misconception on actually how we burn fat. Now, burning fat's just kind of a take on words. When you think of burning fat, Callie, what goes on in your mind?
Fire.
Fire, right. In fact, when we go into the lab and we want to measure the calories that are in a food, do you know how we do it?
With fire?
Yeah, we burn it with fire. And then what we do is we take a measured amount of, let's say we're going to take some of the rolls, the smart rolls that we have that you've been eating. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, right? You take that roll and you take it and you take a little part of it. Let's just say we take 2 grams of the roll, and then we pack it down, and then we put it into this calorimeter that actually burns the food with the neon gas, because we know how much energy that gas is putting out, that flame is putting out. That is measured. We know what it is before. And then we heat up a volume of water, a liter of water. And then the temperatures that is increased from the energy coming from that food, in this case, the roll, then is converted to a mathematical formula of what we call a calorie. Okay. So if it moves it by a certain amount of degrees, then it has calories. It moves it by more degrees and it has more calories. All right. That's how we measure the calories in food. That's how we identify how many carbohydrates and how many fats and how many proteins there are in a food. All right. You know, that's great science, but guess what? That's not how our body burns food. We don't have a little furnace in our stomach and our bodies that burns food. And I might add, that's also why if you burned our food, it would have the same calories, even though we have their fat blocker and our carb inhibitor in there. It's going to have the same temperature rise of that water in that machine as it would anybody else's roll or anybody else's food. Why? Because our bodies don't break down food by fire. It breaks it down by enzyme action. And that's where our fat blocker and our carbohydrate actually work. It inhibits the enzyme action of breaking it down, which is actually how we get our food anyway. So don't be confused. If anyone ever says, hey, I had the food tested and it had the same number of calories as every other food. Yeah, and it's right. That's because our body doesn't burn food. It breaks it down by chemical enzyme action. So,
Interesting.
Back to the main topic. So what you see here is a blown up part of your fat and your cells. So the light gray or light purple is a muscle tissue, and those dark purple or dark blue are fat cells. They're called intramyocellular fat cells. Now that's a mouthful, so I'm going to call them the IMTG stations, right? So IMTG is the abbreviation for those little pockets of fat, all right? So what happens is that you gain fat as you get more of these little pockets. As you get more pockets crammed in between your cells of your muscle tissue, then you get fatter. Now, how do you do that? Simply by eating carbohydrates and fats together at the same time. Now, you might be saying, oh, but Jason, that's the best way I want to eat my fats. I love having my bacon and eggs and toast and hash browns all together. There's my carbs, there's my proteins and fats all crammed together. And you're telling me that's how I get fat? Yeah, because the chemical reaction is different than when you take them separately, even when you break them apart by 15 minutes. Now, I have a whole segment that will talk about that type of science later, but this is a good point that as you eat those, more and more of these points of intercellular fat cells will accumulate. What's a great way to break that up?
The fat blocker.
Take the fat blocker. So if I'm not saying don't ever have that breakfast, which I love, probably my favorite meal of the day. I just love the food. I love the bacon. I love the eggs. I love the hash browns. I love the toast. I love a little bit of orange juice. I love all of it. But I can't eat it all the time, or I can't maintain the level of health I want. So when I do eat it, I just take some of the 3B Plus. Why? Because it's blocking the fats and the carbohydrates that are being absorbed. So I'm interrupting the creation of more of those fat cells. So that's just a good little plug, shameless advertising plug. Please forgive me for the advertisement, right? So this diagram is how fat is really burned. Don't worry about it. It looks really confusing and really sciencey. I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to go into it this way. Here's a sumo wrestler, right? They put on weight on purpose. If you are a light sumo wrestler, you're what they call a lightweight. All right. So how then do we move the fat from the belly? And those are little fat cells, all right? Some are big, some are small, right? So he's got some work to do on those small ones, and you pack them full of more fat. How do we get that? It's a matter of transport. So this is a piece of steak. We've all eaten steak, or most of us have. And this is now, I'm explaining the fat in the blue is the fat that's outside of your muscle, all right? The fat, that colored little marbling, we call it in steak because it makes the steak taste so good, is called the IMTG, right? Remember I talked about the fats that's in between our muscle fiber. That's what that is in the yellow, all right? Hopefully this kind of outlines a little bit more in real life what it looks like in our body. What we want to do is when you go into fasting, when you go to work out, that process actually creates more hormone sensitive lipase. There's a chemical reaction that happens that makes a precursor. I'm sure all of you just write this down, this chemical formula that makes more hormone sensitive lipase. The reason why you want, and it's abbreviated HSL, hormone sensitive lipase, we're going to shorten that because it sounds too sciencey. We're going to call that fat burning plants. All right. So the 2 points I want you to pay attention here is that one, we have fat inside of our muscle tissue. That's just the way it is. Doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean you ate wrong. Doesn't mean you were naughty. That's the way we were created. Now, when it gets out of control, they get bigger and they get too many of them. All right. Then what happens is that we have these fat burning plants, the HSLs. That's where fat is actually burned, right? It's not burned, in the furnace. It actually transfers the fat from those little purple and blue points into the HSL, the fat burning plants, to be burned. Our goal then is if I could transfer the fat from my muscle tissue into the fat burning plants faster, right? Just like a production plant. If I have workers making 1 unit an hour and I now have them making 3 units an hour, same workers, I'm more productive. That's what we want to do. We want to make the fat get pulled out of that muscle tissue into our fat burning plants. So going back to that diagram that I had of the steak, okay, what we want is before that fat in the blue arrow, That's the fat on your belly. Before that's burned, it has to burn in the IMTG. Has to burn there first. So it's about transferring that fat. How do we transfer it? How do we make that happen faster? One way is by fasting when you go to work out at the gym. Okay? So when you go to work out, do it on an empty stomach. Say no to the pre-workout drinks. You don't need energy before you go and work out. Your body will create the energy, and actually studies show that you have more energy. Now, it might be a little uncomfortable at first because you're not used to it. That doesn't mean you're not supposed to drink water, and it doesn't mean you may have to have some extra minerals like Callie. What do I take every time before I go and work out on an empty stomach? I drink my water and take my
salt pills.
My salt pills. I always take them because I need to have those minerals in my system so I feel better, I don't get lightheaded, and I have more energy, right? And so that's our first goal. Take the fat in the blue area, that's out by our belly, transfer it to the IMTG inside the muscle. Then from there, it moves toward the hormone-sensitive lipase, right? That's the fancy word. What's the word we called it now?
Fat burning plants.
The fat burning plants. That's right.
The plants. Are they little plants?
That is a typo in my speedy typing. It's not a plant. It is it's not a plant, that you eat. It's a factory burning plant.
Right?
Oh,
okay.
All right. So I should have, stuck a factory there or something. All right. So 1, transfer the fat faster. That's our goal. Number 2, have more of our fat burning plants. All right. That's our goal. The way we do that is through intermittent fasting. Let me prove it to you by science. So a group of scientists took 2 groups of people. There were 34 people on each group. It lasted for 3 weeks. And it showed that group 1 burned 82 to 94% of the fat that was inside their muscle when they didn't eat a meal, compared to group 2 that had 150 carbs before they worked out.
So this is before they work out.
Yeah. So
or before
group 1 didn't eat anything.
Mm-hmm.
Group 2 ate, but ate 150 grams of carbs before the workout.
That's a lot.
Okay. Well, they had to get that energy drink in, right? So they had to work out hard, right? So you can drink that, and what is it? You get a Coca-Cola, there's like 23 grams of sugar in there, right? That's no, it's not more. It's like 39 grams, right? In just one can of pop, right?
Right.
So, but the second group didn't burn any of their fat in their muscle tissue. None. So what's your goal again? You're going to the gym to work out to burn fat. So you take a pre-workout drink.
That has carbs and sugars, right?
Yeah, to have more energy so you can burn more fat. But the studies show that you don't burn any fat when you do that. So don't do that anymore. Now, it's interesting. You know how they did this? So I'm telling you this because this is good science. What they did after this 3-week study, after every single workout, you know what that is? That's a calf. That's somebody's hand. They're doing a biopsy, a muscle biopsy. They actually took a hollow knife and stabbed into their muscle tissue, took out the muscle tissue, tested it to see how much of the fat was inside the muscle tissue. That's how they were able to measure that after every single workout, after 3 weeks. So they had, let's say they're working out 3 times a week, right? At a minimum, they're working out 3 times. They got stabbed 9 times. Ouch. These guys were dedicated. Thank you very much, people that contributed your muscle to this study. This is good, solid science. This is an excellent way of showing that burning or fasting before a workout is much, much better. Another thing that they discovered was the glycogen filled up in group 1 300% faster than group 2. Now, what does that mean? All right. Now, remember that when you and I eat glucose or we eat a carbohydrate, it converts to glucose, right? When we have enough glucose in our bloodstream to satisfy all of our cells' needs, it goes and fills up our glycogen. It's like an emergency energy storage, right? And it's stored in our muscles and a little bit in our liver. And so when we get that sudden urge or need to go work out, like run away from a bear or run to a shoe sale, because they're 90% off normal price, you got to have the energy to do that shopping, right? So where does that instant energy come from? It comes from your glycogen. So it releases from your muscle tissue into your bloodstream so you have a good supply of energy. Well, filling that back up means that you have faster recovery, means that when you go to the gym and you work out really hard and you want to be able to work out again tomorrow, or let's just say you want to have energy for the rest of the day, right? You go to work out in the morning, you don't want to be tired all day. You have the ability to refill that storage of glucose in your muscles 300% faster if you didn't eat before your workout. That's amazing. That's fantastic. That's a great reason why. Another reason why we should fast before we work out. Now, another fantastic study found. This is the other side. When you remember when I said we're working on our factory and we had workers that were making 1 unit an hour, then we really cracked the whip on them, motivated them to work 3 units per hour, right? Increases our productivity. That means that we're moving the fat from our belly to our muscle tissue faster, right? That's good. What's another way we can burn fat faster? We can have more of the fat burning plants, more of the HSL fat burning plants that actually does the work. So if we have double production, more people producing, and our plant is burning more fat, if you fast, studies show that you can actually create more of those hormone sensitive lipase stations throughout your body by 200%. So if you don't fast before your workout, you're not burning nearly as much fat as you could. It's really not the workout that's burning that's losing the weight. Remember how you've heard me talk about, Callie, that exercise is a terrible method to burn fat? Mm-hmm. It's not a great way, but the side effects that comes from fasting and working out can have wonderful benefits of losing weight. And here's a perfect example of it is people, I'm telling you, fast before your workout. You'll have a much better way of maintaining your weight, losing your fat. And so the answer is, I don't know why it keeps on doing that. The answer is eat after your exercise. Now, later in some other fasting, I'm going to tell you how fast you have to eat, some brand new science, things that kind of disrupts what we've once believed. I even taught some of this information, but you know what? I have to change as the science comes out and we learn more stuff. I give it to you, even though I may feel a little embarrassed that I didn't tell you all of the correct information, but nobody knew, right? So I will tell you more about that next week. And in the meantime, Callie's going to talk to you about how we get more of our fats or intermittent fasting in our bodies in a healthy way, right?
Right. So Jason covers some great information about the fat burning plants, not the plant outside or the plants in your house, but the factory plants, which is great information. We get a lot of questions on intermittent fasting or plateau breakers, which is intermittent fasting is a great plateau breaker. That's the reason I'm glad that Jason's going in such depth with a lot of information and over a couple of weeks span, which is knowledge is key. And then you guys can go back and watch the video as many as times you want on YouTube and gather all that information. So today, in line with the intermittent fasting and eating before or after workouts, I'm going to actually go into a little bit more of a product that 3Believe offers and what it requires. So giving the body what it requires, right? So you've gone to the gym, or you want certain aspects of your nutrition. I'm going to show you a little bit more about the R Omega oil. So it's an all natural plant-based, and it is 2.5 times of omega-3s than omega-6. And that's very important to know because on a daily basis, we tend to get omega-6 a lot more than omega-3s, like in our avocados, some nuts, day-to-day.
Or beef,
chicken. Yeah. So there's a lot of more omega-6 in our diet than omega-3s. That's the reason the Pro Omega is formulated, and Jason did a great job at formulating it, making it 2.5 times of omega-3s. So we do have some questions about, they want more energy. You're really hungry after 2 hours of drinking the CMR, right? So I'm going through some of the common questions that we receive with our diet, with the program itself, the 3Believe program. You want more muscle recovery, so you're working at a gym harder. You tend to have sore muscles, right, when you get home, or the day or two afterwards, or a week later. So I'm going to show you some ways and tricks how to overcome that muscle soreness, and mental clarity. So I'm going to go and talk a little bit more in depth about that. And also it improves inflammation. So these are just some of the topics that I am brushing over just slightly with the omega oil, and the benefits that you can do to increase it and maintain or improve some of the body functions, or mental, all these different benefits of the omega. So with the more energy, so I want to be clear, because some people who come from a high carb diet, on average, I guess the average has changed slightly now. What is the females between 300 to 400, and male is 400 to 500?
Amount of carbs?
Yes, because
the last study was done at 434 grams of carbs per day per man, and 398 for women. So coming from that many of the intake of carbohydrates into your daily routine, and then coming onto the 3Believe program, we're cutting that down to less than 20. So a lot of people say, oh my gosh, I could use more energy. I'm feeling sluggish. I'm not quite with it. I have the afternoon, tired hangover, carb hangover type things that you experience through especially the first phase of the 3Believe program. So what we always say is, you want more energy, feeling a little bit sluggish, increase an additional pump per shake. So that would be 3 pumps or 3 tablespoons, because we recommend always 2 per shake. Now just increasing it. Now, if you're still you wait a couple of days, you still feel a little bit tired or sluggish, you can increase it by 1 to 2 more, depending on your results that you wanted to achieve. Now, I wouldn't necessarily stay at 5 or more, as sometimes we can experience some plateau. So you got to kind of gauge of how your body is feeling. It's more of the intuitiveness. So can I give an experience of how I modulate my oil?
With energy.
With energy, sure. Okay. So the best way is to by how you feel and how your body is responding, right? And because it's a fluid machine, it's always going to be changing. There's so many factors that are impacting your body. So you have to just kind of always be cognitive of it and watch and listen to its messages. So, for example, I change up my workouts on a regular basis. kind of that theory of muscle confusion. I can't keep giving the same workout to my muscles or even to cardio, or my body gets used to it and I hit a plateau. So I always want to change it up a little bit. So when I make a change, let's say I'm changing from lighter lifting to I'm doing really heavy lifting now for a little while, I may feel like I'm tired at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Like I'm just like, oh man, I just don't have my get up and go anymore. The workout's really kicking my tail. Well, one theory is that you lighten up on the workout, right? Or if you're a type A personality, you're going to push through it. So I'll increase my oil to give me that extra energy. Now, I have had it where I'm doing a workout and I'll increase it up to 9 pumps per shake, right? And I'm having 2 or 3 shakes a day. That is a very high ratio of fat. However, if I'm going to be doing that workout, for example, for 3 weeks, I'll increase my pumps, let's just say 9, all right? I'll increase it up to 9 to satisfy the problem. And let's say after 3 days, I'm feeling great. I'll slowly start reducing my oil back again. I'll drop it back to 7 pumps. Then I'll drop it back to 6 pumps. Then I'll drop it back to 5. Now, the reason why is because your body's efficiency, and we call that fat adaptation, or your liver is better primed to process those fats in a more efficient manner. It's never exactly, it's not like a machine. It doesn't stay the same all the time. It's moving depending on the workload that you're giving it. So in this case, I'm making more demand of energy because I changed my workout. My liver needs more energy, but as I'm giving it this extra oil, it becomes more efficient at processing those oils. And so it doesn't actually need 9 on the 3rd day or 5th day anymore. It could do the same amount of energy, or give me the same amount of energy with 1/3 less or 25% less. And you just got to play with it. So rule of thumb, increase your oil. And then after you feel great, slowly start dropping your oil back again. Don't always leave it at that same number, because your body's changing. And then if you feel that, oh, I went too far low, I'm feeling weak, then increase it by a little bit more. That's the best way that I found that it works.
Right. And I do the same. I usually, my max is about 5 or 6 pumps, depending on, different variations between my workout, daily routine. I mean, it'd be a great benefit. So, feeling hungry. So a lot of people say, oh my gosh, 2 hours later. Usually how the program is formulated, the reason we put the 2 pumps in with the CMR shakes is because it's supposed to last you 4 to 5 hours. Now, if you're really starving within 2 hours, then that's a clear sign, okay, let me increase your oil. Let's increase your oil to 3, wait it out to see how you're feeling the next day, and increase it again if you still are feeling the same symptoms. Now, just like the energy, hungry is the same way. You want to have your body adapt to what you're feeling and being intuitive to what you're going through throughout the day. Now, you might have 4 pumps in the morning and 2 pumps at your late night, not late night, but evening shake, right? Your 4th shake of the day. You want to gauge it because you want more, you're more hungry in the morning with your up and go and doing your activities and work and things like that, where you're not as hungry at night. So you want to gauge it and you want to be cognitive to that of how your body is feeling and throughout the day. So that's another way. Muscle recovery. Now, Jason did a great example of energy throughout his workouts. It's kind of the same concept of muscle recovery. Now, a lot of people experience, if you do, especially like leg day. I mean, if I do leg day, I'm generally sore for like 2 to 3 days after, I will increase my oil by 4 to 5 pumps every single shake to get my body to recover faster and reduce the inflammation. And
now, just kind of a side note, and the reason why the oil has an impact on your inflammation is that you want to have some inflammation that we've talked about before. You just don't want to have too much. You don't want to have chronic inflammation. And so omega-6 is a inflammational promoting oil. So that's not a reason to eliminate 6, right? You still need the other benefits of omega-6, but omega-3 is the opposite. It does not promote inflammation. In fact, it drives it down. And so what Callie's saying is that your muscle recovery is going to be inflamed. If you really worked out hard, you're going to have more inflammation. So increasing your balance of omega-3 is going to ease off on that inflammation, meaning that you're not going to be sore as much and not for as long.
Right. And I use this trick often. Generally, what I do is, so I do a leg day. Yes, I fasted the day before, but the next day, or if you're feeling tired or things, I will sometimes, not every day that I work out, before I do go to the gym. This is another easy way into what Jason was talking about, fasting before you work out. If you want to ease into it, what I have found sometimes when I know I need that boost or I'm still working through my muscle recovery is 1 pump of oil and 1 scoop of CMR. Now there's 0 carbs. Just remember, I'm not adding any carbs to my prior to workout. I just drink it really quick, and I've noticed, and that's another thing, is just more of an intuitive thing. Sometimes I've noticed that it helps with the energy and the process of recovering from my muscle.
And another technique, if you want to get the full benefits of an empty stomach during working out, like I talked about earlier in this presentation, is take your oil, what Callie's suggesting, the night before. Take it in that shake right before you go to bed, or not minutes before you go to bed, but your last meal, increase your oil then. It's still going to be there ready for you to use the next morning.
Right. So, and then following your workout, sometimes you want to increase your omega oil to 4, following and it says to drink your shake at least 20 minutes after your workout to get that nutrition into your body as quick as possible for your body to utilize it. So, mental clarity. This is the omega-3s in the oil is awesome for the mental clarity. Your brain is made up largely of fatty acids, so you need a steady supply from your diet to feel your best, think clearly, perform well, and work in sharp in older age. So I put the medium chain the medium chain fats, which is like an MTC oil, which is an omega-3. There's a lot of different omega-3s. However, the omega-3 with 3 Believe already has all that in the combination, so you don't need to buy another oil like MTC because it's already in it. So the studies have shown that it actually helps with memory, improved memory, including Alzheimer's disease in older adults. So increasing your omega oil, especially those omega-3s, only helps with your mind. And Jason's read, and I've seen studies and read and researched the benefits of the omega-3s for Alzheimer's, especially, and for memory problems. So it just helps you get a little bit sharper, and just remember that your brain is made up of fat. And improves inflammation. So we already talked about a little bit about how your workout can, kind of cause inflammation, right, with the recovery, but also taking the omega by itself if you don't work out on rigorously, if you do moderation, for any type of workout. It helps with inflammation in general. It helps with, a couple classes ago, we talked about the chronic inflammation and long-term effects of that. And so the omega-3 fatty acids reduce production of molecules and link to inflammation. So that's just another thing to, listen to your body. If you need to increase it, if you have more of an inflammatory body, increase it a little bit, and or watch it over the course of a couple of days, decrease it, and you'll find great benefits of the inflammation going away, not only with your workout, but in general. So give your body what it requires, and it will love you for it. So I love the Omega. I use it, we're diehard, right? I put it in, you put it over some of your eggs.
I put it on my eggs. Not when I cook them. After they're cooked, right before I sit down to eat it, I'll if I'm on a high fat regimen, if I'm increasing my fat, I'll take 2 or 3 pumps and just put it right on the egg. And I was surprised the first time I did it. I'm like, oh, what is this going to taste like? It actually tasted really good. I love it. It really is great.
Well, because it's plant-based and it doesn't have that fishy taste, right? Yeah. It's good for you. So if you have any additional questions, please reach out to support. We're always willing to help answer any of those type of questions. If you want more information about the Omega, Jason has lots of information. I'm sure we can
find something. And then next week, we're going to go over more benefits of fasting. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag, but it's going to be exciting, very useful. Hopefully, you can take, you're encouraged to go into your workouts fasting. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about how often we should fast. Should we fast every day? Should we do an intermittent fast every day?
Maybe.
What does the science say? We'll go over it. Thank you. We love you. Care about you. Have a good, healthy week.
Yes.